Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. Today we're going to talk about Camp EJC. EJC? Like eject? Why no. Elmont Jewish Camp. Elmont Jewish Camp was... Wow. You want to talk about broken down, holy fuck, how is this in fucking operation still? Damn. There were so many violations here, I swear. I can't even begin to tell you. Oh my god. This probably was, back in the day, a very nice place that had fallen into disrepair and bad. I bet you when it was built and when the pools were first installed, this was a nice place. And it was a summer retreat, and it was also a temple that people would go to on Saturdays and that. And I bet it was nice, but it was getting dated even at that point. Anyway, we have a lot to go over, so this is probably going to be split amongst multiple parts. I won't know until I get to the editing, but anyway, here we go. I wrote really small with this one, so I'm probably going to need my glasses. So we'll start with it being Elmont. The day started with, in the morning, we would get, my sister and I and my dad would get into his 77 Dodge Aspen, or 78 Dodge Aspen, I forget which. We would get in there, and he'd start it up, and we'd take the Slant 6 down into the next town over, Franklin Square, and we would pick up two kids, a boy and the older boy. They had two sons, yeah. Can't remember their names offhand. These, by the way, the parents were the same people. The guy, the younger son, I actually had babysat for a couple times because the mother was really cheap. The father was... I told this story, I think, in the story of getting cable TV, about the 19-inch color RCA TV that the guy said I could have. This was his son, or his sons. Anyway, that was that. So we'd get in there, and we'd go down, and we'd pick up the kids, and they'd be ready. And then my dad would drop all four of us off at camp. We'd go in there, and Elmont Jewish Center was in Elmont. There are good areas of Elmont and bad areas of Elmont. I had lived in our first apartment in Elmont, in a better part of Elmont. It was not the greatest part of it, but you didn't feel like if you went to take the garbage out, you were going to get held up at knife point. The bad areas of Elmont, you very well could. So this was a bad area. Maybe at the time it was built, it was not a bad area, just like the town of Freeport, Long Island, is now overrun with, shall we say, people who are not originally from this country, but back in the day was overrun with Jews, and was also a very popular vacation spot in the very early days, like the 20s and the 30s, for rich movie stars. They'd come out to Freeport, Long Island, on like a vacation. Yeah, strange. Never knew that would have been a destination. It still has the marina and that, but it's not once it was all cracked up to be. But Elmont, so Freeport has changed, and Elmont, I'm pretty sure in that area has changed. And this camp would accept kids from Long Island and also the adjoining county called Queens County, which we refer to as Queens. It was funny, with our old landlord, we would talk about Suffolk, which is the east end of Long Island, being more like Nassau County, where I live, the western end of Long Island, and we would say that Suffolk is like Nassau, Nassau is like Queens, and Queens is like the city. The city, forget about it, as we say in New York. So we had a lot of kids from Queens, and the kids from Queens were rambunctious, to say the least. There was nothing that would stop them from picking a fight with anybody. That's all they wanted to do, is fight, fight, fight. I guess maybe the puberty is starting to go, and the flagellum are starting to flow in there, and things are starting to get into that puberty stage, and the whores that moan are raging through their body, har har, and things, and maybe that's what it was. This was 89, 90, somewhere in there, maybe. Yeah, somewhere in there. 88, 89, 90, somewhere in there, we'll call it. So, bad kids, bad area, and all that. The bathroom that I remember had 2 stalls and 2 urinals. They didn't have the pitchers on the sink like Hillel, because this was not an Orthodox camp. They had 2 urinals. One would flush, the other one didn't. You could pee in it, and it would go down, so it would always drain, but there was nothing to rinse it out. It had the old-style 4-spoked knob, not with 4 separate spokes. It was kind of more of a roundy 4-spoke kind of thing. Can't really explain it unless you saw it, but it had that, and it was a manual flush in that it just had city water pressure going to it, which is not great, at least around here, so I'd imagine even for this being a business, not that much better. It just had a knob that you turn, and as long as you turn it, water would be flowing and would go down the drain and out. You could flush it for 5 minutes if you want. You could flush it for, oh, I'm Jewish. Okay. One urinal didn't flush. If you tried to flush it, you would turn the knob and you'd get bang, 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 bang. The pipes would knock and nothing would come out. No matter how long you tried it. They never fixed that one. Like I said, this place was falling into a lot of disrepair. Okay. So Pinky, this kid's name was Daniel. Daniel was the nerd. Okay? Daniel was the nerd. I gotta clean these glasses, but Daniel was the nerd. He always had a book with him. He was not interested in camp. He was more interested in drawing out, I shit you not, the periodic table. His name was Daniel, but they called him Pinky. Because he once wore a pink shirt, that's why. So he had glasses, and he'd sit there, and he'd work on writing out the periodic table, and he was trying to memorize where all this stuff goes. Because, of course, one day this is going to be important that he knows where the 13th element on the periodic table goes. Okay. This was the early stages of people being fucked up that we now have a term for that I don't like or believe in. We're not even going to mention what that word is, or even the first initial. Pinky would draw out the periodic table, and Pinky had the oddest voice, whiny, melodic, almost discordant, melodic voice. We'll put it that way. So he'd be there with a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, and kids would pick on him because he was the nerd. Guess what, folks? I was the nerd too. I got picked on all the time because the kids who like to fight don't like the nerds. Just is. Anyway, I got picked on too, so I know about this, but I also was chicken shit, so I didn't stick up for him. So they would either take his paper away, or as he's writing, they'd grab his pen, or they'd flick his ear, or just stupid shit that kids do to piss off other kids. He also wasn't easily fazed. Eventually, he'd get pissed off enough to tell the counselor, but in the meantime, they'd pick on him and he'd kind of brush the first one off or the second one off, and they'd keep doing it. So he'd go, "Oh, quit it." Like that. Every time. Oh, quit it. Every damn time. Very, very odd character. That was him. There was an auditorium room, and it had these vents on the ceiling. I don't know what they were exactly, but I think they were supposed to be air conditioners. They were like smaller ones, but there were 6 of them. It was a big room, but I'd imagine a much larger 2 units would be able to cool off that room instead of 6. And they were also evenly spaced. Now, it got downright cool in there. You know, it wasn't bad at all, but it definitely cooled the place off. But they wouldn't always have to have them on. And in the back of this room, by the way, there was a stage, and there was also a walk-in refrigerator that was kept at fuck knows temperature, but it was freezing in there from what I understand. Wasn't enough. You'd bring your own lunch, but it wasn't enough to like freeze your sandwich where the bread is icy. I don't know. I just remember hearing it was very cold in there. I never went in it. But these ACs allegedly had bug killers in them also. And one day they flipped the wrong breakers, and we heard zap, 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 zap. So it seems like these, if that's what this even was, these bug killers or something weren't turned on a regular basis or hadn't been used in a long, long time. So that was just bugs that had landed there with it not on and maybe just died or couldn't get out of it. And now they all got zapped or something. I don't know, but that was an interesting one in the auditorium. Pinky, as I had mentioned before, I would see him mostly in the lunchroom. Now, when it was time for lunch, I didn't like this part of the day. I liked it, but I didn't. Now, I remember reading, because I was old enough, I was 9 years old, 10 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in there. We'll call it about that. Maybe up to 11, I don't remember. This lunchroom was like that walk-in fridge freezer thing for some reason. It just was room, and it had tables set up in it. The doors on the room were not set up that it would look like a walk-in something. It just had regular doors on it. But the AC was it was like 40 fucking degrees in that room. I don't know why. Nobody could ever tell anybody why. And it was just fucking freezing. Like I said, I remember reading the pamphlet or whatever it's called for the camp, and it said campers, and I don't like the word campers, I don't know why, campers must bring a dairy sandwich for lunch. That would mean a cheese sandwich, basically. You couldn't bring meat, because something with the Jewishness. Couldn't bring meat. So I think that was okay. Peanut butter and jelly was okay. I don't really remember what else, but they would serve a side dish and a drink, maybe? I can't remember on the drink part, but certainly a side dish. They had, rotating, they had 3 different ones, and 2 of them I can't remember. One I do. And it was nothing more, and I remember actually seeing, because you could actually peek into the kitchen sometimes, elbow macaroni. They would buy this stuff in bulk. They had a fucking soup tureen filled with this that they would boil this shit in. And then they drain it, and I don't know what it was. I guess it was like drowned in like 14 pounds of butter or something. So good. and it was hot, steaming. Of course it would be steaming in a cold room like that, but it was nourishing. It was good, and it tasted good, and it was like having a warm meal on a cold day kind of thing. It was just gave you that sense. But after that, especially even now, I get cold after I eat. It's just something with me. I get sometimes really cold after I eat, and I have to go warm up somewhere somehow. The only place I could really go was out in the hallway, and as it were, the counselors didn't really like you going in the hallway. So, anyways, it was freezing in there. But then there was the computer room. And I think what I'm going to do is save that for the next part. So I will thank you for watching. And there's not just the computer room, but a lot more to go. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.